I'd like to welcome White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. Thank you for being here, Chief, and what a historic week for the Republican Party. Sir, let me just start with some of the most pressing things that we've seen coming out of the final day of the speech of the RNC. Trump delivers his message. The violence of the people leaving the White House, specifically U.S. Senator Rand Paul and his wife Kelly being yelled at saying, "We'll kill you." He feared his life. What is happening in America, sir?
Well, it's gotten out of hand, Eric. It's not just what it happens to a senator, but it's what's happening to Americans all across the country when we start to look at the violence and really the aggressive behavior. These are not peaceful protests. These are just truly anarchists trying to sow discord in our cities. And so whether it's here with a senator leaving the White House, or whether it's on Main Street in Kenosha, Wisconsin, or anywhere else in the country, we've got to deal with it. I can tell you that I was on the phone with A.G. Barr this morning talking to him about not only an investigation into what's happened, but making sure that we have a rapid response team. The president has been very, very clear. We want the governors, if they see unrest in their cities or states, to make the request. The federal government is willing to send FBI, U.S. Marshals, and indeed National Guard to help with that. But each and every day it seems like there's a new city with a new tape that is very disturbing. And so if you want to live in a safe community, what you need to do is make sure that you show up at the polls in November so that we support law and order and that we support the safety and security of the American people by restoring what has really been commonplace up until now.
You know, sir, Joe Biden wants to be president. He was doing an interview and he insinuated that President Trump is in favor of more violence on the streets right now because, as Biden puts it, this takes the eye off the ball of some of the other things like COVID. What do you say to Joe Biden?
Well, I mean, that's such a ridiculous assertion on behalf of Vice President Joe Biden that this president is willing to sow discord. Listen, it's his campaign staff, those of Kamala Harris, that actually paid to bail out people when they were sent to jail. So you can't look at this and suggest that the president is sowing discord when he's been the only one that's willing to actually have law enforcement and National Guard to come in. And when you go around the country and you talk to law enforcement officers, both Democrat and Republican law enforcement officers, they consistently say this president is willing to have their back and willing to support them and make sure that they have the proper funding. So this is a red herring by Joe Biden to suggest that anybody is responsible for it, other than the fact that his encouragement and his unwillingness to denounce this defund the police measure is sowing additional discord in our nation's cities.
So let's talk a little bit about Nancy Pelosi. I want to take you to a soundbite recently that kind of really blew me away when I heard her say it. Take a listen.
Yeah. We take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue with their allies in the Congress of the United States.
Basically calling President Trump and yourself, sir, a domestic enemy. You know, care to respond to Speaker Pelosi?
Well, I mean, Nancy Pelosi will say anything she can to make it political. This has nothing to do about enemies of the state. It's interesting. She's wanting to place the blame on the President of the United States and all of their supporters. I can tell you it's hard to defend that. The President was exactly right. You know, they want to tear down what is good and great about America. There's one president, one candidate, and one particular administration who has put America first. You can't celebrate the greatness of America when you start to talk about the enemies that are within. This is just more political rhetoric by the Speaker of the House to suggest that she somehow has the answers. They're socialist answers. She knows that. She's wanting to put forth a socialist agenda, and this president said, not on my watch, and I support him in that.
Should the speaker, who could say something as alarming as calling the President of the United States a domestic enemy, should she be censored?
Well, listen, if she says that on the House floor, they have rules that actually can take down her words. And so if she's getting on the House floor to say that, then you can take down her words. But we also have that Constitution that she's talking about that actually protects speech and protects political speech. It has a greater protection perhaps than any others. And so to suggest that she can't speak her mind, however misinformed it may be, is not consistent with the Constitution. But if she gets on that House floor and does that, what they want to make sure that that's a place of debate, not a place where personalities come into play.
Sir, is there any news you can update us on the negotiations with the Democrats surrounding some of the COVID aid?
Well, I just wanted to let you know, and thank you for bringing it up, Eric. And so I'll share with you details of a conversation that I had with Speaker Pelosi yesterday that I've not shared with anybody else. Spent about 25 minutes on the phone trying to get assistance for not only for the people that are hurting, for those that need enhanced unemployment and businesses that are struggling, but assistance for our teachers and education, for daycare, additional assistance there, so that we can deal with this in a real way. And so as I had that discussion with her, she made the most compelling and contradictory statements that I think I've ever heard. Because what she said is that she wants to spend $2.2 trillion, that $1.3 trillion is not enough. But what she went further to say is she didn't want to give any of the details on how she would spend that $2.2 trillion. And so when I said, well, what would that mean for education? I'm not going to tell you. What is that going to mean for state and local help? I'm not going to tell you. You're supposed to trust the Speaker of the United States with the hardworking American taxpayer dollars. I can tell you, it's not her money. It's the people that are watching right now. We're going to be good stewards of that. And as we look at that, it's critically important that we find some solutions. There's been one person who's been willing to act, and I pointed this out to the Speaker yesterday. It hasn't been Congress. It's been the President of the United States that makes sure that we have enhanced unemployment. We make sure that eviction protection is there, and making sure that we take student loans and say, you don't have to pay those loans during this pandemic time. It's also been the President of the United States that says, let's give the American people more money in their pocketbook, and with the payroll deduction tax deferral. And so he's acting when Congress won't.
I got only about 20 seconds or so. So are you going to get a deal? Do you feel that they're willing to make the negotiation to come to a deal, or no?
I'm not optimistic that we're going to get a deal. Nancy Pelosi would rather play politics than focus on the people. This president is going to focus on the people, so we're going to look at additional executive actions.
Very good. We're going to have to leave it there. I'd just like to point out to our audience, that man right there, Mark Meadows, Chief of Staff now. Last time he was on the show, he was Congressman Mark Meadows, and I said, look at that guy. He's going to be the next Chief of Staff. Not only that, he was going to be the longest serving Chief of Staff. Chief, we really appreciate your time, and stay safe there. You know, it's just it's getting really weird out there, so stay safe, Chief.
I appreciate it, Eric. Good to be with you and all your viewers.
All right, we'll see you again soon. Thank you.
All right.